She found him bleeding out on her doorstep at dawn, an Apache warrior with a bullet wound that should have killed him. And in that moment of terror and compassion, Catherine Murphy made a choice that would bind their fates together forever, transforming a servant girl with nothing into a woman worth dying for. The Arizona Territory sun hadn't yet broken over the Dragoon Mountains when Catherine Murphy stepped out of the servants' entrance at the Thornton Ranch. September 1876, and the air already tasted like dust and coming heat. She carried a bucket for the morning water, her Irish red hair tied back with a faded ribbon, her hands already rough from 2 years of scrubbing floors for people who barely knew her name. Kate, as everyone called her, was 19 years old and completely alone in the world. Her parents had died crossing the Atlantic when she was 12, fever taking them both within days of each other. She'd been passed between families in Boston, working for her keep until she'd heard about opportunities out west. Domestic servants were needed, they said. A girl could make a new life, they promised. What they hadn't mentioned was that Arizona Territory was a land of violence, that Apache warriors and American soldiers had been killing each other for decades, that a servant girl, especially one with no family and no protection, was barely more than property to families like the Thorntons. Kate walked toward the well, her thin cotton dress already sticking to her back. The ranch sprawled across a valley, the main house built like a fortress with thick adobe walls. 300 head of cattle grazed on land that had belonged to the Apache until the army pushed them onto reservations. Mr. Thornton liked to brag about it at dinner parties, while Kate served wine she'd never taste. She was 10 feet from the well when she saw him. A man lay crumpled against the wooden fence, his body twisted in a way that meant either unconsciousness or death. Dark skin, long black hair, buckskin clothing soaked with blood. An Apache. Kate's bucket hit the ground, water sloshing over her worn boots. Her first instinct was to run, to scream for Mr. Thornton and the ranch hands. Apache meant danger, everyone said. Savages, they called them, murderers who'd kill a white woman without hesitation. But the man didn't move, and Kate had seen enough death to recognize it waiting in the wings. She should have run. Any sensible person would have run. Instead, she found herself moving forward, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. She knelt beside him, her hands shaking as she reached out to check for a pulse. His skin was hot with fever. His chest rose and fell in shallow, rapid breaths. A bullet wound in his left shoulder bled steadily, the kind of bleeding that wouldn't stop on its own. His face, even twisted with pain, was striking. Strong bones, a proud nose, lips pressed tight against agony. He couldn't have been much older than her, maybe 22 or 23. His eyes opened suddenly, dark as midnight, unfocused with pain and fever. He tried to speak, words in a language Kate didn't understand. Apache language, she realized. His hand moved towards something at his belt, but he was too weak. The movement made fresh blood pulse from his shoulder. Kate pressed her hands against the wound instinctively, trying to stop the bleeding. Her mind raced. If she called for help, they'd kill him. Mr. Thornton hated the Apache with a passion that bordered on obsession. His brother had died in a raid 5 years ago, and he'd sworn to shoot any Apache he found on his property. But if she didn't get help, this man would die right here in the dust. She could feel his life pulsing out between her fingers, warm and insistent. The man's eyes focused on her face. He said something again, urgent, desperate. His hand gripped her wrist with surprising strength, and she saw the question in his eyes. Would she help, or would she let him die? Kate made her decision in a heartbeat. She couldn't carry him. He was too heavy, and she was too small. But the old groundskeeper's shed was only 20 feet away, abandoned since old Miguel had died last spring. If she could get him there, hidden, maybe she could save his life without anyone knowing. It took everything she had. She got her arms under his shoulders, ignoring the blood soaking into her dress, and dragged him across the dirt. He tried to help, his legs pushing weakly, but he was fading fast. His weight felt like dragging a full-grown steer, and Kate's back screamed with the effort. 10 feet, 15. Her vision blurred with exertion. The shed door hung crooked on its hinges, almost there. The man's eyes rolled back. He went completely limp, dead weight in her arms. Kate bit back a sob and pulled harder. Her boots slipped in the dust, her arms burned, but she got him through that door and into the darkness of the shed. Inside, old tools and dusty burlap sacks created a kind of nest. Kate lowered him as gently as she could, then ran back out to grab her bucket and scatter dirt over the blood trail. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the bucket, but she made 3 trips to the well, washing away the evidence, her mind screaming that she was insane, that she'd be caught, that this would end with her neck in a noose. Back in the shed, she knelt beside the unconscious Apache and really looked at the wound for the first time. The bullet had gone clean through his shoulder, which was good, no digging for metal, but the exit wound was ragged and still bleeding. He needed stitches, he needed a doctor, he needed things Kate couldn't give him, but she'd have to try anyway. She ran back to the main house, slipping in through the servants' entrance. The kitchen was empty. Mrs. Chen, the cook, wouldn't arrive for another hour. Kate grabbed clean rags from the linen closet, a bottle of whiskey from Mr. Thornton's study, her sewing kit from her tiny room under the stairs. Her hands wouldn't stop, shaking as she stuffed everything into a flour sack. Back in the shed, the Apache warrior was still unconscious. His breathing had gotten worse, wet and rattling. Kate had helped the town doctor in Boston a few times, fetching supplies while he treated patients too poor to pay. She'd watched him stitch wounds, burn out infections, set broken bones. She'd never done it herself. She was about to try anyway. Kate poured whiskey over her hands, then over the wound. The Apache's body jerked, a low groan escaping his lips, but he didn't wake. She threaded her needle with shaking fingers. The morning light coming through the shed's cracks was barely enough to see by. The first stitch made her stomach turn. Pushing the needle through his skin felt wrong, violent, even though she was trying to help. Blood welled up around the thread. Her hands shook so badly she almost dropped the needle. But she kept going. 1 stitch, 2, 3. Her vision swam. Sweat ran into her eyes. The Apache's face was grey now, lips almost blue. Was she killing him? Was she making it worse? 6 stitches on the entry wound. She had to roll him slightly to reach the exit wound, and the movement made him cry out, a sound of such pure agony that Kate nearly stopped. But stopping meant death, so she pushed forward. 8 more stitches on the ragged exit wound, her hands moving on instinct now, muscle memory from watching the Boston doctor. When she finished, she sat back on her heels, breathing hard. Blood had covered her hands, her dress soaked into her knees. The stitches were crude, uneven, nothing like the neat work she'd seen doctors do. But they held. The bleeding had slowed to a seep. She cleaned the wounds again with whiskey, then wrapped them in clean cloth. His fever was raging now, his skin burning to the touch. Kate ran back to the well, filled her bucket with cold water, and returned to sponge his face and chest, trying to bring the fever down. As she worked, she really looked at him for the first time as a person, not just a dying body. He was beautiful in a way that made her heart ache. Scars marked his chest and arms, the history of a hard life written on his skin. His hands were calloused, a warrior's hands. He wore a medicine bag around his neck, beadwork intricate and colourful. Who was he? Did he have family looking for him? How had he been shot? The questions swirled in Kate's mind as she worked. The sun rose higher. Kate heard voices from the main house, the ranch coming to life. She'd been gone too long. Mrs. Thornton would be looking for her, wondering where her morning tea was. Kate touched the Apache's face gently. His fever still raged, but his breathing had stabilized. She'd done what she could. She hid the bloody rags under a pile of old burlap, made sure the door was secure, and slipped out of the shed. She was halfway across the yard when Mr. Thornton's foreman, a cruel man named Wade Garrett, stepped into her path. Wade was tall and mean, with eyes like a snake and hands that grabbed whenever Mrs. Thornton wasn't looking. He'd cornered Kate 3 times in the last month, and she'd barely escaped each time. Now he looked at her blood-stained dress with narrow eyes. "Well now, Kate Murphy, what have you been doing?" His voice was slow, suspicious. "That blood on your dress—" Kate's mind went blank with terror. Then instinct took over. "Rabbit, sir." She kept her voice steady, her eyes down like a good servant. "Caught in the fence by the south pasture. Poor thing was suffering, so I put it out of its misery. Made a mess of my dress, I'm afraid." Wade stepped closer, so close she could smell tobacco and sweat. "That's so. Where's this rabbit now?" "Gave it to the dogs, sir. Wasn't good for eating, all torn up like it was." He studied her face, looking for the lie. Kate held perfectly still, barely breathing. After a long moment, Wade stepped back. "Get cleaned up. Mrs. Thornton's been screaming for her tea for 10 minutes now. You know how she gets." Kate nodded and hurried past him, feeling his eyes on her back. In her tiny room, she stripped off the bloody dress and hid it under her bed. She'd burn it tonight. She changed into her only other dress, scrubbed her hands until they were raw, and went to make Mrs. Thornton's tea with hands that still shook. All through that endless day, Kate played the perfect servant. She brought breakfast trays. She scrubbed floors. She served lunch to Mr. Thornton and his foreman, while they discussed plans to expand the ranch onto more Apache land. She smiled when Mrs. Thornton criticized her work. She stayed silent when Wade's hand brushed her hip in the hallway, and every free second her mind was in that shed, wondering if the Apache warrior was still alive, if his fever had broken, if infection had set in, if she'd saved him or just delayed his death. Night finally came. The Thorntons retired early, and the ranch hands settled in the bunkhouse. Kate waited until she was sure everyone slept, then crept out into the darkness. The shed door creaked as she opened it. She'd brought water, bread, more clean bandages. She expected to find him unconscious still, or worse, dead. Instead, she found him awake. He sat propped against the shed wall, his dark eyes alert and fixed on the door. His right hand held a knife, held it with the easy confidence of someone who knew how to use it. When he saw Kate, his body relaxed slightly, but the knife didn't lower. They stared at each other in the lamplight. Kate's heart pounded. Up close, fully conscious, he was even more striking. His face was lean and proud, his eyes intelligent and watchful. Despite the fever still flushing his skin, despite the obvious pain he was in, he radiated a quiet strength that made her breath catch. He spoke, his voice rough and low. Apache words that Kate couldn't understand. She shook her head. "I don't know what you're saying." He switched to English, heavily accented but clear. "Why, one word, but it contained everything. Why did you help me? Why didn't you call for the others? Why risk yourself for an enemy?" Kate set down the water and bread, keeping her movements slow and non-threatening. "Because you were dying. Because I couldn't just walk away and let that happen. Your people kill mine. I know. My people kill yours. I know that too." He studied her face, searching for something. "You are afraid—" It wasn't a question, but Kate answered anyway. "Yes, but you came back." "Yes." Something shifted in his expression. The knife finally lowered, though he didn't put it away. "I am Kai, of the Chiricahua Apache. You have given me my life. By the laws of my people, I owe you a debt that cannot be repaid." Kate's hands twisted in her skirt. "You don't owe me anything. I just couldn't let you die. What is your name?" "Catherine Murphy." "But everyone calls me Kate." Kai nodded slowly. "Kate, I will remember." She moved closer carefully and checked his bandages. Fresh blood had seeped through, but not as much as she'd feared. His fever was still high, but not as devastating as that morning. "The bullet," Kai said. "You took it out, it went clean through. I just had to stop the bleeding and stitch you up." He looked at the crude stitches visible above the bandage. "You are not a medicine woman." No, I'm a servant. I work in the main house, yet you know how to heal. I know how to try. Kai's eyes held hers. In the lamplight, they were impossibly deep, full of pain and strength and something else Kate couldn't name. In my tribe, we have a saying. The person who saves your life owns your spirit. You own mine now, Kate Murphy. The words sent a shiver down her spine. I don't want to own anyone's spirit. I just want you to live. Why? There it was again. That simple question with no simple answer. Kate sat back on her heels, looking at this man who should be her enemy, who should frighten her, who instead made her feel more awake than she'd felt in years. Because every life matters, she said finally. Because I've seen too much death. Because when I looked at you dying in the dust, I couldn't walk away. Kai was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something in Apache, soft and reverent. What does that mean? It means you have a warrior's heart, even though you are not a warrior. Kate felt heat rise in her cheeks. You need to rest. Your body needs to heal. I'll come back tomorrow night with more supplies. She stood to leave, but Kai's voice stopped her. Kate Murphy. She turned back. They will kill me if they find me here. They will kill you too for helping me. I know. You should turn me in. Save yourself. Kate met his eyes. No, why not? Because that's not who I am. Something like respect crossed Kai's face. He nodded once, a gesture that felt like a promise, like an understanding passing between them. Kate slipped out of the shed and back to the house, her heart racing. She didn't know what she'd started, didn't know that saving Kai's life would change everything, didn't know that in a few short weeks their fates would be bound together in ways neither of them could imagine. All she knew was that she'd made her choice, and she'd make it again. In the shed, Kai lay back against the wall, his hand pressed to his wounded shoulder. He thought of the white girl, with red hair and fearless green eyes. The girl who'd risked everything to save an enemy. The girl who'd stitched his wounds with shaking hands. By Apache law, he owed her his life. By his own honor, he owed her more than that. Kai closed his eyes and made a silent vow to the spirits. If he survived this, he would repay the debt. He would protect Kate Murphy with his last breath. He would make sure no harm ever came to the woman who'd shown him mercy when she had no reason to. He didn't know yet that he was falling in love with her. Didn't know that she was already falling for him. But the desert night knew, and the stars watched. And fate smiled, because some stories are written before the people living them even realize they've begun. 5 nights passed in a dangerous rhythm. Kate would work her endless day under Mrs. Thornton's sharp eye and Wade Garrett's hungry stare, then slip out after midnight to tend to Kai in the shed. Each night brought new revelations, new dangers, and something neither of them wanted to name but couldn't deny. The 6th night, Kate arrived to find Kai standing, not just sitting up but actually on his feet, testing his weight. The improvement was remarkable. His fever had broken on the 3rd day, and Apache resilience did the rest. The stitches held, the wound was closing clean, and color had returned to his face. You shouldn't be moving yet, Kate scolded, setting down her bundle of food and fresh bandages. You'll tear the stitches. Kai turned to face her, and even in the dim lamplight she could see the difference. Strength had returned to his stance. His eyes were clear and focused. He looked like what he was, a warrior, dangerous and alive. I heal fast, he said simply. My people have always healed fast. The Apache body knows how to survive what would kill others. Kate unwrapped the bandages to check his shoulder. The wound looked good, edges knitting together nicely. Her crude stitches had done their job. She allowed herself a moment of pride before catching Kai, watching her face with an intensity that made her hands tremble. You have the touch of a healer, he said quietly, gentle but sure. My grandmother was a medicine woman. She had the same hands. Tell me about her, Kate said, rewrapping the clean bandage. She'd been curious about his life, his people, but hadn't wanted to pry. Now, with him stronger and more alert, the questions bubbled up. Kai settled back against the wall, and for the first time since she'd found him, he smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, almost boyish. My grandmother was small, like you, but fierce. She could set broken bones, cure fevers, deliver babies. She taught me about healing plants, how to read the land, how to listen to what the body tells you. Is she still alive? Kate asked softly. The smile faded. No, she died 3 winters ago. The reservation sickness took her. Too many people crowded together, not enough food, water that makes you sick. The white man's gifts to my people. Kate heard the bitterness, but also the grief underneath. I'm sorry. Why? You didn't put us on the reservation. You didn't break the treaties or steal our land. Kai's eyes searched her face. You are different from the others. The ones who live in that big house. Why? Kate sat down on an overturned crate, suddenly tired. Because I know what it's like to have nothing, to be treated like you don't matter. She looked at her rough, work-worn hands. My parents died when I was 12. Fever on the ship from Ireland. I was passed around Boston like unwanted baggage, working for families who barely remembered my name. When I heard about work out west, I thought maybe I could start fresh. But you found the same treatment here, worse in some ways. At least in Boston, people ignored me. Here, Wade Garrett looks at me like I'm property he plans to claim. Mrs. Thornton treats me like a trained dog. Mr. Thornton doesn't even see me at all. Kate's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Sometimes I think about just walking into the desert and disappearing. Kai's hand covered hers, warm and calloused and surprisingly gentle. Don't say such things. Why not? Who would miss me? I would... The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning neither was quite ready to acknowledge. Kai's thumb brushed across her knuckles. You gave me my life back, Kate Murphy. That makes you important. That makes you matter. Kate looked up at him, and something passed between them in that moment. Understanding, recognition, 2 people the world had tried to break, finding unexpected strength in each other. The moment shattered when voices carried across the yard. Men's voices, Wade Garrett and 2 ranch hands, walking past on their way to the bunkhouse. They were laughing about something, crude jokes about the new saloon girl in town. Kate froze, barely breathing. Kai's hand went to his knife instinctively. They stayed perfectly still as the voices passed within 15 feet of the shed, so close Kate could smell the whiskey on the night air. After an eternity, the voices faded. The bunkhouse door slammed shut. Kate released a breath she hadn't known she was holding. That was too close, she whispered. Kai, you can't stay here much longer. When you're strong enough, you need to leave. Get back to your people before someone discovers you. Where would I go? Kai's voice was bitter. My people are scattered. Some on the reservation slowly dying. Others in the mountains, hunted like animals. My brother rides with Geronimo's band, fighting a war we cannot win. You have a brother? Had. I don't know if he lives still. Kai's jaw tightened. We were hunting together when the soldiers came. They shot first, no warning, no talk. Just bullets. My brother escaped into the canyon. I got hit trying to cover his retreat. I ran for 2 days before I collapsed at your gate. Kate's heart ached for him. I'm so sorry. Don't be sorry. Be careful. Kai's eyes locked on hers with fierce intensity. These men, the ones who own you, they are dangerous. I have seen men like them before. Men who take what they want and destroy anyone who stands in their way. I can handle Wade and Mr. Thornton. Can you... Kai's hand tightened on hers. I see the fear in your eyes when you talk about this, Wade. I see how you make yourself small, invisible. That is survival, but it is not living. What choice do I have? I have no money, no family, nowhere to go. You have me! The words came out fierce, almost angry. I owe you a life debt, Kate Murphy. In my culture, that is sacred. While I breathe, you are under my protection. Kate wanted to laugh at the absurdity. Him, wounded and hunted, offering to protect her. But the look in his eyes stopped her. He meant it. Every word. How can you protect me when you're hiding in a shed, healing from a bullet wound? I won't be in this shed forever. And when I'm strong enough to leave, you're coming with me. Kate's eyes widened. What? You said yourself you have nothing here. No family, no future, just endless servitude to people who treat you like dirt. Kai leaned forward, his dark eyes burning with conviction. Come with me. I'll take you somewhere safe. Teach you to survive in the desert. You'll never have to scrub another floor or endure another man's unwanted touch. You're talking crazy. I'm white. Your people would never accept me. My people would honor you for saving my life. You would be welcomed, protected. Kai's voice softened. And you would be free. The word hit Kate like a physical blow. Free. When had she ever been free? Not in Boston, passed between families like a burden. Not here, owned in all but name by the Thorntons. Freedom was something she'd stopped dreaming about years ago. But looking at Kai, seeing the absolute certainty in his eyes, she felt something dangerous bloom in her chest. Oh, I can't just disappear. They'd send people looking for me. The army, bounty hunters, let them look. The desert is big, and we know how to disappear. Kai's hand cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. You saved my life, Kate Murphy. Let me save yours. Kate's breath caught. His touch was gentle but electric, sending shivers down her spine. She should pull away. This was madness, an impossible fantasy. She was a white woman and he was Apache. The world would destroy them for even thinking such thoughts, but she didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned into his touch, letting herself imagine it for just one moment. Freedom, safety, a life that belonged to her. The fantasy shattered when the shed door suddenly rattled. Both of them jumped apart. Kai grabbed his knife. Kate's heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst. Someone was trying to open the door. Kate! You in there? Wade Garrett's slurred voice cut through the night. I saw you sneaking around. What are you doing in the old shed? Kate's mind went blank with terror. Then instinct took over. She grabbed the lamp and moved to the door, blocking Kai from view with her body. She opened it just a crack, keeping her face calm, even though she was screaming inside. Wade stood there, whiskey-drunk and suspicious. His eyes tried to peer past her into the darkness. Mr. Garrett, you startled me. Kate kept her voice steady, submissive, everything he expected from a servant girl. Mrs. Thornton asked me to inventory the old tools. She's thinking of having the hands clean out this shed next week at midnight. Wade's eyes narrowed. I couldn't sleep. Thought I'd get a head start on the work. Kate held up the lamp, letting the light illuminate her face. Sweet, innocent, unthreatening. Is there something you need? Sir, Wade stepped closer, so close she could smell the whiskey on his breath. His hand came up to touch her hair, and Kate fought every instinct to recoil. You know what I need, Kate Murphy. His voice dropped low, predatory. Been patient with you. Real patient. But a man's patience runs out eventually. Behind her in the darkness, Kate knew Kai was watching, listening. One wrong move from Wade and the Apache warrior would put a knife in him. Then they'd both be dead by morning. Kate forced herself to smile, to lean slightly away as if shy rather than revolted. Mr. Garrett, I'm flattered truly, but Mrs. Thornton would be awful angry if she found us together. You know how she watches me? Mrs. Thornton's asleep, but the hands aren't. They saw you walk this way. If you're gone too long, they'll come looking. You know how they gossip? Kate let uncertainty creep into her voice. I wouldn't want your reputation damaged, sir. A man of your standing, caught with a servant girl. Wade's expression flickered. Pride and reputation mattered to him, Kate had learned. More than desire, even. She was betting everything on that fact. After a long, tense moment, Wade stepped back. You got a point. But this ain't over, Kate. You understand me? Yes, sir. Kate kept her eyes down, submissive, defeated. Finish your inventory and get back to the house. Ain't proper. You wandering around at night? Wade turned and stumbled back toward the bunkhouse, muttering under his breath. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Kate stood frozen in the doorway until he was completely out of sight. Then her legs gave out. She sagged against the doorframe, shaking violently. Strong arms caught her. Kai pulled her back into the shed, his face dark with fury. That man. He wants to hurt you. It wasn't a question. Kate couldn't speak, couldn't stop shaking. The fear she'd been holding back for months crashed over her all at once. Wade had been circling closer and closer, and she'd been running out of excuses. Tonight was the closest he'd come to actually forcing himself on her. "Hey, look at me." Kai's hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Did he hurt you?" Kate shook her head, but tears spilled down her cheeks anyway. "Not tonight, but he will eventually. I can't avoid him forever. And when he finally corners me somewhere private," her voice broke, "there's no one to stop him. No one who cares what happens to a servant girl with no family." "I care," Kai's voice was fierce, "and I will stop him. I swear it on my ancestors' spirits, Kate Murphy. That man will never touch you. You can't promise that. You're leaving as soon as you're healed. Then you're leaving with me." Kai's hands tightened on her face. "Tonight proved it. You're not safe here. You were never safe here. Come with me, Kate, please." Kate looked into his eyes and saw absolute certainty. He meant every word. He would protect her or die trying. This man she'd known for less than a week, this enemy she'd saved, was offering her something no one else ever had. True protection. True freedom. If I run, they'll hunt me. The Thorntons have money and connections. They'll say I stole something, make me a criminal. Let them say what they want. They can't catch what they can't find. Kai's thumb wiped away her tears. "I know places in the Dragoon Mountains where no white man has ever set foot. Canyons and caves where my people have hidden for generations. We'll disappear, Kate, become ghosts, and then what? We can't hide forever. We don't have to. Just long enough for them to stop looking. Then we head south, cross into Mexico. Start new there." Kai's voice gentled. "I know you're scared. I know this sounds impossible. But I've seen impossible things survive. Desert flowers that bloom in drought. Prey animals that escape the fastest hunters. My people, still fighting after decades of war." He pressed his forehead to hers, his breath warm on her face. "You and me, Kate Murphy, we're impossible too. A white girl and an Apache warrior. But we're both survivors. And survivors find a way." Kate closed her eyes, feeling the solid warmth of him, the strength in his hands. Every logical thought in her head screamed that this was madness. Running away with a wounded Apache into the desert was suicide. She'd die of thirst or exposure or get killed by soldiers or hostile tribes. But staying meant Wade Garrett, meant years of servitude and abuse, meant dying slowly inside until she became a ghost anyway. How long until you're strong enough to travel? The words came out before she could stop them. Kai pulled back, his eyes searching hers. 3 days, maybe 4. My shoulder needs more time to heal before I can ride hard. Then we have 3 days to plan. Kate's voice steadied as decision replaced fear. I'll gather supplies, food, water, blankets, things we'll need that won't be missed. Can you ride? If you can get me a horse, I can ride it. The Thorntons have 30 horses. I can take one of the old mares, one they won't miss right away. Maybe 2, so we can switch off and move faster. Kate's mind was racing now, planning, calculating. We'll need to leave at night. New moon is in 4 days. That's perfect, darkest night. Kai was staring at her with something like awe. You're serious? You're actually going to do this? Kate met his eyes. I'm terrified, but I'm more terrified of staying. You were right. Wade won't stop. And eventually, he'll catch me when there's no escape. She took a shaky breath. So yes, I'm serious. In 4 days, we run. Kai's smile was fierce and bright. He pulled her close, wrapping her in his arms, despite the pain it must have caused his injured shoulder. Kate let herself sink into the embrace, let herself imagine that this crazy plan might actually work. 4 days, Kai murmured against her hair. Then you'll never have to fear that man again. I promise you, Kate Murphy. I will keep you safe or die trying. Kate believed him. Against all logic, against all reason, she believed every word. Outside, the desert wind whispered through the darkness. In the main house, Wade Garrett lay awake, planning his next move. In the bunkhouse, ranch hands slept, unaware that everything was about to change. And in the shed, 2 impossible people held each other and planned their escape, not knowing that fate had even bigger plans for them both. The next morning brought trouble Kate hadn't anticipated. Mrs. Thornton summoned her to the sitting room, where 3 other ranch wives sat drinking tea and exchanging gossip. Kate recognized them immediately. Mrs. Henderson, Mrs. Polk, and Mrs. Davies, the holy trinity of respectable society in this part of Arizona territory. "Catherine, stand up straight," Mrs. Thornton commanded, her voice sharp as broken glass. "These ladies have some questions for you." Kate's stomach dropped. She clasped her hands in front of her apron and kept her eyes down, the perfect picture of a submissive servant. But her mind raced. Had someone seen her visiting the shed? Had Wade talked? Mrs. Henderson spoke first, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "Dear, we've noticed you've been looking rather tired lately. Dark circles under your eyes. Are you sleeping well?" "Yes, ma'am. Just working hard, that's all." "Working hard at what, exactly?" Mrs. Polk leaned forward, her beady eyes boring into Kate. "Mrs. Thornton mentioned you've been requesting extra lamp oil. Seems odd for a servant who should be sleeping when her work is done." Kate's heart hammered. The lamp oil. She'd been stupid to take so much. Of course they'd notice. "I've been mending clothes at night." "Ma'am, Mrs. Thornton's good dresses need careful attention, and I can't do it properly during the day, with all my other duties." Mrs. Thornton's eyes narrowed. "Show them your hands, Catherine." Kate extended her hands, palms up. They were rough and red from work, but Mrs. Davies grabbed them and examined them closely, turning them over like she was inspecting livestock. "No needle pricks, no thread burns on the fingers." Mrs. Davies looked at the other women triumphantly. "She's lying about the mending." "I use a thimble, Mom." Kate tried, but Mrs. Thornton cut her off. "Enough. We know you've been sneaking around at night, girl. The question is why." Mrs. Thornton stood, towering over Kate. "Are you meeting someone? One of the ranch hands, perhaps?" "No, ma'am." "I swear, then where do you go?" Mrs. Polk demanded. "Wade Garrett saw you near the old shed last night." "At midnight." "What possible reason could you have for being out there?" Kate's mind went blank. Wade had told them. Not everything, thank God, but enough to raise suspicion. She needed a story, something believable. "I was checking the shed for supplies, ma'am. You'd mentioned wanting it cleaned out, and I thought if I made a list of what was in there, the hands could do it more efficiently." "At midnight?" Mrs. Henderson scoffed. "I couldn't sleep. Sometimes when I can't sleep, I walk. It helps clear my head." Kate forced tears into her eyes, not difficult given her terror. "I know it's not proper, ma'am. I'm sorry. It won't happen again." The four women exchanged glances. Kate could see them weighing her story, looking for holes. Finally, Mrs. Thornton spoke. "You're confined to the house after sunset from now on. No more wandering. If I catch you outside after dark, you'll be dismissed without references. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." Kate kept her head bowed, hiding her panic. No more night visits meant she couldn't tend to Kai, couldn't finalize their escape plans. 3 days had just become infinitely more complicated. "And I'll be inventorying my jewelry tonight," Mrs. Thornton added coldly, "just to be certain nothing has gone missing." "Dismissed!" Kate fled to the kitchen, her mind racing. They suspected something, even if they didn't know what. The walls were closing in. She had to warn Kai, had to figure out how to reach him now that she was being watched. Mrs. Chen, the cook, looked up from kneading bread dough. She was a Chinese woman who'd immigrated 10 years ago, married a ranch hand who died in a horse accident, and stayed on as cook because she had nowhere else to go. She and Kate rarely spoke beyond work necessities, but now Mrs. Chen studied Kate's face with knowing eyes. "You're in trouble," Mrs. Chen said quietly. "It wasn't a question. I don't know what you mean." Kate started, but Mrs. Chen shook her head. "I see things. I say nothing, but I see." She glanced toward the door, making sure they were alone. "You visit the old shed at night. For 6 nights now." "Why?" Kate's blood turned to ice. "Please." "You can't tell them." "I won't tell." Mrs. Chen's eyes were sharp but not unkind. "But others will notice soon if they haven't already. Whatever you're hiding, it won't stay hidden much longer." Kate made a split-second decision. She needed an ally, even if it was risky. "There's someone in the shed. Someone who will die if Mr. Thornton finds him." Mrs. Chen's hands stilled in the dough. "Apache." Kate's silence was answer enough. Mrs. Chen nodded slowly. "My husband's mother was Navajo. thrown off her land, separated from her family. She died never seeing her people again. Her voice was heavy with old grief. The white men here, they think brown skin means animal, less than human. I know this. I live this every day. He was dying. I couldn't just leave him. No, you couldn't, because you have a good heart in a bad world. Mrs. Chen returned to her kneading but spoke quietly. Tonight I will need herbs from the storage cellar. It will take me long time to find the right ones. Maybe 30 minutes, maybe 40. The back door will be unlocked. Kate's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Don't thank me. Just don't get caught. I can't help you if they see. Mrs. Chen's expression hardened. And be ready to run soon. Wade Garrett wants you. I've seen that look before. Men like him don't stop until they take what they want or die trying. The day crawled past like a wounded animal. Kate performed her duties under Mrs. Thornton's suspicious glare. She served lunch while Mr. Thornton and 3 other ranchers discussed the Apache problem and how the army wasn't doing enough to clear out the savages. She polished silver while Wade Garrett watched from the doorway, his eyes following her every movement. Around 4 in the afternoon, a commotion erupted outside. Kate looked out the window to see a group of cavalry soldiers riding up to the main house. Her heart stopped. Had they found Kai? Had someone seen him? The lieutenant dismounted and strode to the door. Kate was sent to answer it. Ma'am, I need to speak with Mr. Thornton. Official army business. The lieutenant was young, maybe 25, with hard eyes that had seen too much violence too soon. Kate showed him to Mr. Thornton's study, then was ordered to bring coffee. She moved as slowly as she dared, trying to hear the conversation through the door. We've had reports of Apache activity in this area. Mr. Thornton, a warrior, went missing after a skirmish near Cochise stronghold 6 days ago. We tracked blood trail heading north, then lost it in the rocks. The lieutenant's voice was matter-of-fact. We believe he's dead, but we're checking all ranches and settlements just to be certain. Haven't seen any Apache here, Lieutenant. My men would have reported it. Mr. Thornton sounded annoyed at the interruption. All the same, we'll need to search your property. Standard procedure. Kate nearly dropped the coffee tray. They were going to search the ranch. They'd find Kai. He was still too weak to run, and even if he could, where would he go in broad daylight with cavalry everywhere? She delivered the coffee with shaking hands and immediately went looking for Mrs. Chen. She found her in the root cellar. Exactly as planned. The army is here, Kate whispered urgently. They're searching for an Apache warrior. They're going to find him. Mrs. Chen's face paled. Then you need to move him now before they start searching. Where? I can't hide him in the house. The old mine shaft, half-mile east, covered by mesquite. Abandoned 20 years ago. Mrs. Chen grabbed Kate's arm. You need to go now. I'll tell them you went to town for supplies. It'll buy you maybe an hour. Kate ran. She grabbed a canteen from the kitchen, stuffed bread and dried meat into a cloth, and sprinted toward the shed. Her heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. She burst through the shed door to find Kai, already on his feet, knife in hand. He'd heard the horses, the voices. He knew. Cavalry. They're searching for you, Kate gasped out. We have to move you. Now. Kai's face was grim. I can't run far. My shoulder, there's an old mine shaft. Half-mile east. Can you make it? I'll make it. Kai grabbed his few belongings, wincing as the movement pulled at his healing wound. Lead the way. They slipped out the back of the shed and into the scrub brush. Kate could hear voices from the main yard, soldiers spreading out to begin their search. She led Kai east, moving as fast as she dared, using every bit of cover the desert provided. Kai moved like a ghost, despite his injury, completely silent, leaving almost no trail. Kate crashed through bushes like a panicked deer by comparison. He took her hand, steadying her, showing her without words how to move quietly, how to step, where to place her feet. They'd covered maybe a quarter mile when shouts erupted behind them. Someone had found the shed, found signs of recent occupation. Run, Kai commanded, and they ran. Kate's lungs burned. Her legs screamed. The desert sun beat down mercilessly, but she pushed forward, Kai's hand gripping hers, pulling her along when she stumbled. There, the mesquite thicket Mrs. Chen had described. Behind it, a dark opening in the rock face, half hidden by decades of growth. They pushed through the thorny branches, Kai shoving Kate ahead of him protectively. The mine shaft was small, cramped, dark as a tomb. They crawled in deep, past old support timbers and scattered equipment left by long-dead miners. The air was cool and damp, smelling of earth and decay. Behind them, voices grew closer. Soldiers spreading out, searching. Kate and Kai pressed themselves against the far wall of the mine, barely breathing, his arm around her protectively. A soldier appeared at the mine entrance, silhouetted against the bright desert sun. Kate's heart stopped. This was it. They were caught. The soldier peered into the darkness, but didn't enter. After a moment he called out, "Mine shaft's here, sir." "Looks unstable. Want us to check it?" Another voice, the lieutenant. "No. If it's been abandoned 20 years, the support beams are rotted. Not worth risking men on a collapse. Keep searching the area." The silhouette disappeared. Footsteps retreated. But Kate and Kai stayed frozen, not daring to move, barely daring to breathe. They waited in the darkness for what felt like hours. Kai's breathing was labored, his shoulder wound clearly causing him pain from the running. Kate held him as carefully as she could, feeling his heartbeat against her own, both of them alive by sheer luck. Finally, the voices faded completely. The sun outside shifted, sending different angles of light through the mine entrance. They'd been there for at least 2 hours. "We can't go back," Kate whispered. "They'll be watching. They'll know someone helped you." Kai nodded in the darkness. "Then we leave now, tonight. No more waiting." "But you're not healed. Your shoulder will heal on the trail or it won't. We're out of time, Kate." His hand found her face in the darkness. "Are you with me?" Kate thought of Mrs. Thornton's suspicion. Wade Garrett's hunger. The cavalry searching the ranch. The noose tightening around both their necks. "I'm with you." She pressed her forehead to his. "But I need to go back. Get supplies, horses. I'll come back tonight after they think I'm asleep. Too dangerous. More dangerous to run without supplies. We'd die in the desert in 2 days. Kate's voice was steady despite her terror. "Trust me. I'll come back. I promise." Kai was silent for a long moment. Then he kissed her forehead, a gesture so gentle it made her want to cry. "If you're not back by midnight, I'll come looking for you." "I'll be back." Kate pulled away reluctantly. "Stay hidden. Don't move until I return." She crawled back toward the mine entrance, checking carefully before emerging into the fading sunlight. The desert was empty, the soldiers gone. She brushed dirt from her dress, straightened her hair, and walked back toward the ranch with her heart in her throat. The main yard was chaos. Soldiers milled around, preparing to leave. Mrs. Thornton stood on the porch, her face pinched with irritation at the disruption. Wade Garrett watched everything with narrow, calculating eyes. Kate slipped in through the kitchen door. Mrs. Chen looked up from stirring a pot, relief flooding her face. "They found the shed," Mrs. Chen whispered urgently. "Found signs someone had been staying there. Mr. Thornton is furious. He's questioning all the hands. Did anyone mention me? Not yet. I told them you'd gone to town for supplies, like I said. But Kate, they're going to figure it out." Mrs. Chen gripped her arm. "Whatever you're planning, do it tonight. Don't wait." Kate nodded. Her hands shook as she began preparing dinner, acting like everything was normal, like her whole world wasn't about to explode. That evening, Mr. Thornton gathered all the ranch hands and house servants in the yard. The cavalry had left, but the tension remained thick as smoke. "Someone on this ranch harbored an Apache." Mr. Thornton's voice rang out, cold and furious. "Someone gave aid to the enemy. When I find out who, they'll hang. That's a promise." His eyes swept over every face, lingering on Kate. She kept her expression blank, terrified, innocent. "Just another scared servant." Wade Garrett stepped forward. "Sir, if I may." "I think we should search the servants' quarters. Anyone hiding an Apache would need to steal supplies. Food, bandages, that sort of thing." Kate's blood turned to ice. Her room, the stolen bandages hidden under her bed, the food she'd been stockpiling. If they searched, they'd find everything. "Good thinking, Wade." Mr. Thornton gestured to 2 ranch hands. "Search all the servants' rooms. Now, Kate watched in frozen horror as the men headed toward the house. In minutes, they'd find the evidence. She'd be caught, hanged probably, or handed over to the army. Mrs. Chen stepped forward. "Mr. Thornton, sir, forgive me, but the missing supplies, they were mine." Everyone turned to stare at her. "I've been taking food to my husband's mother's grave. She's buried in the hills. It's Chinese custom to feed the dead." Mrs. Chen's voice was steady, her face calm. "The bandages were for my hands. Arthritis makes them crack and bleed. I'm sorry if I broke any rules." Mr. Thornton studied her suspiciously. "Your husband's been dead 5 years, and his mother 7. But tradition is tradition." Mrs. Chen met his eyes without flinching. After a long moment, Mr. Thornton waved dismissively. "Fine, but no more taking supplies without permission. Now get back to work, all of you." The crowd dispersed. Kate caught Mrs. Chen's eye and saw the older woman give the tiniest nod. She'd just saved Kate's life, bought her the time she needed. That night, Kate lay in her narrow bed, fully dressed, waiting for the house to fall silent. Her small bag was packed with everything she could carry: food, water, bandages, a knife from the kitchen, matches, a blanket. Not much, but it would have to be enough. Around 11, she heard Wade Garrett's footsteps in the hall. They stopped outside her door. The handle turned slowly. Kate held her breath, knife gripped in her hand under the blanket. If he came in, if he tried anything, she'd fight. She'd scream. She'd do whatever it took. After an eternity, the footsteps moved away. Wade had been checking to make sure she was there, making sure his prize hadn't escaped. Not yet, Kate thought grimly. But soon, at 11:30, she slipped out her window, landing softly in the dirt. The ranch was dark and quiet. She crept to the stable, moving like Kai had taught her. Weight on the balls of her feet. Using the shadows, she saddled 2 horses. The old mare Bessie and a younger gelding named Dusty. They were the 2 least valuable horses on the ranch. The ones that might not be missed immediately. She led them out quietly, walking them a quarter mile before mounting. The desert night was cool and clear. Stars spread across the sky like diamonds. Kate rode east toward the mine shaft, toward Kai, toward an uncertain future that terrified and thrilled her in equal measure. She was leaving behind everything she'd ever known. Her language, her culture, her people. She was running into the desert with an Apache warrior, trusting him with her life, choosing him over safety. It was the craziest thing she'd ever done, and somehow it felt like the first real choice she'd ever made. At the mine shaft, Kai emerged from the shadows like a ghost. He saw the horses, saw Kate, and his face transformed with fierce joy. "You came..." He pulled her down from the saddle, holding her tight despite his injured shoulder. "I promised, didn't I?" Kate pulled back to look at his face. "Are you ready?" "I've been ready since the moment I met you." Kai mounted the gelding smoothly, hiding any pain. "We ride south, hard and fast. By the time they realize you're gone, we'll be ghosts." Kate mounted Bessie, her heart pounding with fear and exhilaration. Behind her lay servitude, abuse, a slow death of the spirit. Ahead lay danger, uncertainty, and freedom. She chose ahead. They rode into the darkness together. 2 impossible people making an impossible escape, not knowing that their real story was only just beginning. They rode through the night like spirits fleeing hell itself. Kai led them through terrain that seemed impossible to navigate in darkness, but he moved with absolute confidence, reading the land by starlight and instinct. Kate clung to Bessie's reins, trusting him completely, her body aching from hours in the saddle. By dawn, they'd covered nearly 20 miles. The Thornton Ranch was a memory behind them, swallowed by desert and distance. Kai finally slowed the horses, guiding them into a narrow canyon where a thin stream trickled between red rocks. "We rest here," he said, dismounting stiffly. His shoulder wound had reopened during the hard ride. Fresh blood stained his shirt. Kate slid off Bessie, her legs nearly buckling. She'd never ridden so hard or so long. Every muscle screamed, but she pushed past the pain and went to Kai immediately. "Let me see your shoulder." Kai tried to wave her off. "It's nothing. It's bleeding. Sit down before you fall down." Kate's voice carried an authority that surprised them both. Kai sat on a flat rock, and Kate carefully peeled away his shirt. The stitches had held, thank God, but the wound had torn slightly at the edges. She cleaned it with water from the stream, rebandaged it with strips torn from her spare petticoat. "You should have told me it was hurting," she said softly, her hands gentle on his skin. We needed to put distance between us and them. Pain doesn't matter when survival is at stake. Kai caught her hand, bringing it to his lips. "You did well tonight, Kate Murphy. You ride like you were born to it." Kate laughed, surprising herself. "I can barely walk. My backside feels like I've been beaten with a board. That will pass. In a few days you won't even notice." Kai's eyes were warm, proud. "You're stronger than you know." They let the horses drink and rest, while Kate unpacked the food she'd brought. Dried beef, hardtack, some cheese that was already starting to smell in the heat. It wasn't much, but Kai ate like it was a feast. "How long until they come after us?" Kate asked, watching the canyon entrance nervously. "They already have," Kai said simply. "Wade Garrett will have discovered you missing by now. He'll gather men and ride out immediately. Then we should keep moving." "Not yet. The horses need rest, and so do you." Kai studied the sun's position. "We'll sleep for 4 hours. Then we ride again. By nightfall, we'll be in the Dragoon Mountains. They won't follow us there." "Why not?" Kai's smile was grim. "Because that's Apache territory. Your people fear it. With good reason." Kate felt a flutter of anxiety. She was trusting Kai with her life, but she was also riding into country where white people were the enemy, where she would be the outsider, the threat. Kai saw her fear and touched her cheek. "My people will accept you because I accept you. You saved my life. That makes you family under our laws, sacred, untouchable. What if they don't see it that way? They will. I'm the nephew of Cochise himself. My word carries weight." Kai's expression grew serious. "But I won't lie to you, Kate, it won't be easy. Some will distrust you. Some will hate you just for your skin color. You'll have to prove yourself, earn their respect." "I've been doing that my whole life," Kate said quietly. "At least with your people, I'll have you standing beside me." Something shifted in Kai's eyes. He pulled her close, careful of his injured shoulder, and kissed her. It was different from the gentle kiss in the shed. This was fierce, possessive, full of everything they'd been holding back. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard. Kai pressed his forehead to hers. "You are mine now, Kate Murphy, by Apache law and by my own heart. Do you understand what that means?" Kate's heart raced. "Tell me." "It means I will kill anyone who tries to hurt you. It means I will provide for you, protect you, honor you above all others. It means you are my woman, and I am your man for as long as we both live." His dark eyes burned into hers. "Is that what you want?" Kate thought of Wade Garrett, of Mrs. Thornton's cruelty, of years of being invisible, unwanted, used. Then she looked at Kai, this fierce warrior who'd vowed to protect her, who saw her worth when no one else did. "Yes," she whispered. "That's exactly what I want." They made love there in the canyon, hidden by red rocks and desert scrub, the stream singing beside them. It was Kate's first time, and Kai was patient, gentle, reverent. He treated her like something precious, and for the first time in her life, Kate felt truly seen, truly valued. Afterward, they slept tangled together on Kate's blanket, exhausted and happy despite everything. For a few hours, the world couldn't touch them. Kate woke to Kai's hand over her mouth. Her eyes flew open. He put a finger to his lips, gesturing for silence. Then she heard it, horses, voices, coming closer. They gathered their things in frantic silence. Kai helped Kate mount, his movements urgent but controlled. The voices grew louder. Male voices, angry, searching. They came through here. "I can see the horse tracks." That was Wade Garrett's voice, thick with fury. Kai and Kate urged their horses deeper into the canyon, moving as quietly as possible. But Bessie's hoof struck a loose rock, the sound echoing off the canyon walls like a gunshot. "There! I heard something!" Wade's voice rang out. "They're in the canyon!" Kai grabbed Bessie's reins and kicked his gelding into a run. They burst out of the canyon's far end, just as Wade and 5 ranch hands came around the bend behind them. "There they are!" After them, Wade's shout was followed by a gunshot that ricocheted off the rocks, inches from Kate's head. They ran. The horses, rested from their brief sleep, stretched out into a gallop. The desert flew past in a blur of sand and sage. More gunshots cracked behind them, but Kai led them on a zigzag path that made them harder targets. Kate clung to Bessie's mane, bent low over the horse's neck, praying she wouldn't fall. She'd never ridden at this speed, never felt this kind of terror. Behind them, Wade and his men were gaining, their horses fresher, their rage fueling them. Kai led them up a rocky slope where the horses stumbled and slid. Kate's heart lodged in her throat as Bessie nearly went down, but the old mare found her footing and pushed forward. Behind them, one of Wade's men wasn't so lucky. His horse fell, screaming, throwing the rider hard. At the top of the slope, Kai pulled up suddenly. Kate drew alongside him and saw why. The land dropped away in a sheer cliff, maybe 40 feet down, to a boulder-strewn ravine below. "We're trapped." Kate's voice was barely a whisper. Kai's eyes scanned the cliff edge. The ravine below, the men closing in behind them. His face was calm, calculating. A warrior's face. "No, we jump." "What?" Kate stared at him like he'd lost his mind. "We'll be killed. Maybe, or maybe we trust the horses to find a way down." Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us now. Back to the story. Kai met her eyes. "Do you trust me?" Behind them, Wade and his remaining men crested the rise. 4 men, all with rifles raised. "End of the line, Kate." Wade's voice was ugly with triumph. "You and your Apache friend. Step down from the horses. Nice and slow." Kate looked at Wade, at the men with him, at the ropes they carried. She knew exactly what they planned. And Kai, drag her back to the ranch, where Wade would finally take what he wanted, then probably kill her anyway for the trouble she'd caused. She looked at Kai, at this man who'd shown her what it meant to be valued, who'd given her a choice when she'd never had one before. "I trust you," she said. Kai smiled, fierce and proud. Then he kicked his horse straight over the cliff. Kate screamed and did the same. Bessie leaped into open air, and for one impossible moment they were flying. Then gravity took hold, and they were falling, plummeting toward the rocks below. The horses hit the slope partway down, their legs churning, sliding on loose scree in a barely controlled fall. Kate lost her stirrups, clinging to the saddle horn with both hands, certain she was about to die. Bessie's hooves found purchase. The mare half ran, half slid down the steep incline, somehow staying upright through sheer determination. Kai's gelding was ahead, sending rocks tumbling down in a small avalanche. They hit the ravine floor hard, the horses stumbling but not falling. Kate's teeth clacked together so hard she tasted blood. But they were alive, impossibly, incredibly alive. Above them, Wade and his men stared down from the cliff edge, not believing what they'd just seen. "Go!" Kai shouted, and they went. They galloped down the ravine, weaving between boulders, the horses' hooves splashing through a shallow stream. Behind them, Wade's furious curses echoed off the rocks, but he wasn't following. The jump was too risky, too insane. Only desperate people made leaps like that. After 2 miles, Kai finally slowed. Both horses were lathered with sweat, sides heaving. Kate was shaking so badly she could barely hold the reins. "We did it," she breathed, not quite believing. "We actually did it." Kai was laughing, the sound bright and free. "You jumped off a cliff on faith alone. You're either the bravest woman I've ever met, or the craziest." "Both," Kate managed, and started laughing too. Hysterical, relieved laughter that bordered on tears. They rode more slowly now, letting the horses recover. The land changed as they moved east, becoming more rugged, more vertical. Red rock formations rose like ancient cathedrals. The air smelled different here, wild and untamed. As the sun began to set, painting the rocks in shades of crimson and gold, Kai led them into a hidden canyon. Kate saw immediately why he'd chosen it. Natural walls on 3 sides, a clear spring bubbling from the rock, grass for the horses, defensible, secret. "We camp here tonight," Kai said, dismounting carefully. His shoulder was bothering him again, Kate could tell. Though he tried to hide it, they tended the horses first, unsaddling them, rubbing them down with handfuls of dry grass. Both animals had earned their rest. Then Kate insisted on checking Kai's wound again. The bandage was soaked through with blood. The hard riding and that insane cliff jump had done real damage. Kate cleaned and rebandaged it, but she was worried. The wound needed time to heal, and they weren't going to get that time. "How much farther to your people?" she asked. "If we ride hard tomorrow, we'll reach them by nightfall." Kai caught her worried expression. "Don't fear, Kate. My people have medicine women far more skilled than any white doctor. They'll heal this properly." They built a small fire hidden by the canyon walls and ate the last of the food Kate had brought. Tomorrow they'd have to hunt or forage. But tonight they had fire and food and each other. As darkness fell, Kate sat with her back against Kai's chest, his good arm wrapped around her. Stars appeared overhead, more stars than she'd ever seen. The Milky Way, a river of light across the black sky. "Tell me about your family," Kate said softly. "Your people. What should I expect?" Kai was quiet for a moment, his chin resting on top of her head. "My mother died when I was young, childbirth. My father was killed by Mexican soldiers when I was 12. That's when I went to live with my uncle, Cochise, the great chief." Kate had heard the name even in her sheltered life. Cochise was legendary, a warrior who'd fought the Americans and Mexicans for decades. He raised me as his own son. Taught me to hunt, to fight, to lead. He's old now, tired from years of war. He wants peace for our people, even though he knows the white men's promises are lies. Kai's voice was heavy with pain. "We've been pushed onto smaller and smaller land, starved, hunted. Many of my people have given up, gone to the reservations to die slowly rather than quickly in battle. And I rode with my brother, fighting, trying to protect what little we have left. But I'm tired too, Kate, tired of death and loss." His arm tightened around her. "When you saved me, when you showed me kindness I didn't deserve from an enemy, something changed. I started thinking maybe there's another way to live, not fighting, not dying, just surviving, building something small but real." Kate turned to look at him, seeing the vulnerability in his eyes. "Is that what you want? To stop fighting?" "I want to live long enough to have a family, children, a life that's more than just war." His hand cupped her face. "I want that with you, Kate Murphy. If you'll have me." Kate's eyes filled with tears. No one had ever wanted a future with her before. No one had ever seen her as more than a servant, a burden, a body to be used. "I'll have you," she whispered. "For as long as you'll have me." They kissed under the stars, and this time it was slow and sweet, a promise rather than passion. When they finally pulled apart, Kate rested her head on his shoulder. "What will we do?" she asked. "After we reach your people. Where will we go?" "South eventually. Into Mexico, where neither your people nor mine have full control. There are places in the Sierra Madre where Apache bands have hidden for generations. We'll find a place there, Kate. Build a life." Kai's voice was certain. "I promise you. This running, this fear, it won't last forever." Kate wanted to believe him, but as she stared into the fire, she couldn't shake the feeling that their real trials were still ahead. That night, she dreamed of Wade Garrett, of his hands around her throat, his voice promising she'd regret running. She woke gasping, and Kai held her until the fear passed. "He can't reach you here," Kai murmured. "You're safe now," but Kate knew better. Men like Wade Garrett didn't give up. They didn't forget. And somewhere out there in the darkness, he was still hunting. Dawn came too soon. They rode out as the sun painted the rocks red and gold, heading deeper into Apache country. Kate's body ached from days in the saddle, but she pushed forward. She'd come too far to turn back now. Around midday, Kai went very still. His eyes scanned the rocks above them, seeing something Kate couldn't. "We're being watched," he said quietly. "My people. They've found us." Kate's heart raced. "What do we do?" "Nothing. Let them come." Kai raised his hand in a gesture Kate didn't understand, calling out words in Apache. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then figures appeared on the rocks above. 5 warriors, all armed, all watching them with dark, suspicious eyes. One of them called down to Kai. A rapid exchange in Apache followed, too fast for Kate to catch any meaning. But she heard the skepticism in their voices when they looked at her. Finally, the lead warrior gestured for them to follow. Kai nodded to Kate. "They'll take us to the camp." "To Cochise?" He saw her fear and squeezed her hand. "Remember, you're with me, under my protection. No one will harm you." Kate wanted to believe that. But as they rode surrounded by Apache warriors, all of them staring at her with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility, she wondered if saving Kai's life had led her from one danger straight into another. The camp appeared suddenly, hidden in a box canyon so well camouflaged Kate would have ridden right past it. Wickiups dotted the canyon floor, smoke rising from cooking fires. Women looked up from their work, children stopped playing, warriors emerged from shelters, all of them staring at the white woman who'd invaded their sanctuary. An old man emerged from the largest Wickiup. He was tall despite his age, with a face carved by time and hardship into something ancient and powerful. His eyes, when they fixed on Kate, were sharp as obsidian blades. "Uncle," Kai said, dismounting and helping Kate down. "I've returned, and I've brought someone you need to meet." Cochise looked at Kate for a long, measuring moment. Then he spoke, his voice like distant thunder, and Kate's real test began. Cochise spoke in Apache, his words flowing like a river of stones. Kate understood nothing, but she heard the question in his tone. She stood straight despite her exhaustion and fear, meeting the old chief's eyes with as much courage as she could muster. Kai responded in Apache, gesturing to his shoulder. Then to Kate. The conversation went back and forth, other warriors joining in. Kate caught her own name several times, and the tone grew heated. Some voices sounded angry, others curious. All of them were deciding her fate. Finally, Cochise raised his hand and silence fell. He looked at Kate for a long moment, then spoke in accented but clear English. "My nephew says you saved his life, that you risked your own people's anger to heal him, that you fled with him rather than turn him over to be killed." Cochise's eyes were unreadable. Why would a white woman do this? Kate's mouth was dry, but she forced herself to speak. "Because he was dying. Because I couldn't walk away from someone who needed help, even though he is Apache. Even though my people have killed your people. Even though. A life is a life. It matters regardless of whose side they're on." Kate met Cochise's gaze steadily. "I've seen too much death in my life, sir. I wasn't going to add to it if I could help it." Murmurs rippled through the gathered crowd. Cochise's expression remained stern, but something flickered in his eyes. Respect, perhaps. Or at least interest. "You are brave to come here, white woman." "Foolish, but brave." Cochise gestured to an older woman standing nearby. "This is Nalin, our medicine woman. She will examine my nephew's wound. If your healing was good, if you truly helped him rather than harmed him, we will talk more. If not..." He left the threat unfinished. Nalin approached, her face weathered like canyon stone, but her eyes sharp and intelligent. She spoke to Kai in Apache, and he removed his shirt. The old medicine woman unwrapped Kate's bandages with practiced hands, examining the stitches and the healing wound beneath. Kate held her breath. Her stitching had been crude, desperate. She'd done her best, but she wasn't a trained doctor. What if the wound was infected? What if she'd actually made things worse? Nalin poked and prodded, her fingers gentle but thorough. She smelled the wound, pressed around the edges, checked for heat and swelling. Finally she turned to Cochise and spoke. Kate couldn't understand the words, but she saw Nalin nod approvingly. Cochise's expression softened slightly. He looked at Kate with new eyes. "The medicine woman says your work was good. The wound heals clean. The stitches are crude but effective. You have the hands of a healer, even without training." Relief flooded through Kate so powerfully her knees nearly buckled. Kai moved to her side, steadying her with his good arm. "She may stay," Cochise announced to the gathered crowd. "She is under my nephew's protection, and by the law of life debt under mine as well. Anyone who harms her answers to me." The crowd dispersed slowly, many still casting suspicious glances at Kate, but the immediate threat had passed. She was alive. She was safe. For now, Nalin gestured for them to follow her to a wickiup near the center of camp. Inside, it was dim and cool, smelling of herbs and smoke. The medicine woman indicated that Kai should sit, then began gathering supplies to treat his wound properly. She worked in silence, cleaning the wound with something that made Kai hiss in pain, then applying a poultice that smelled of bitter roots and plants Kate didn't recognize. She rebandaged it with clean cloth, then said something to Kai in Apache. "She says you did well for someone with no training," Kai translated, a small smile playing at his lips. "She wants to know if you're interested in learning proper medicine." Kate looked at Nalin in surprise. The old woman's eyes were warm now, assessing Kate with professional interest rather than hostility. "I would be honored to learn," Kate said softly. Nalin nodded, as if she'd expected this answer. She spoke again, and Kai translated. "She says a healer's gift is rare and should not be wasted. If you stay with us, she will teach you. But first, you must prove yourself to the tribe. Healing me was only the beginning." A young woman appeared at the wiki-up entrance, speaking rapidly in Apache. She was beautiful, maybe 18, with long black hair and eyes that burned with intelligence and anger. She looked at Kate with open hostility. Kai's expression grew guarded. He responded in Apache, his tone careful. The young woman's voice rose, clearly arguing. Other voices joined from outside. Whatever was being discussed, it was contentious. "What's happening?" Kate whispered. "That's Amma. She was promised to me before I was shot." Kai's jaw tightened. "She's challenging your presence here, saying I've dishonored her by bringing a white woman into camp." Kate's stomach dropped. Of course Kai would have had someone. He was a warrior, the nephew of Cochise. He would have been expected to marry, to have children, to continue his line. "Did you love her?" Kate asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "No. It was arranged by our families. I respected her, but I didn't love her." Kai took Kate's hand. "That was before you." "Everything is different now." Amma saw the gesture, and her face twisted with fury. She spat words at Kai that needed no translation. Then she turned to Cochise, who had appeared at the commotion, and spoke rapidly, gesturing at Kate. Cochise listened, his face grave. When Amma finished, he looked at Kai and spoke. Kai's expression went hard. He responded sharply, his voice carrying the authority of a warrior. But Cochise shook his head and spoke again, this time with finality. "What did he say?" Kate demanded, fear rising in her throat. Kai's hand tightened on hers. "Amma has challenged you. Apache law gives her that right, since you've taken her promised husband. She demands a test of worth." "What kind of test?" "A woman's challenge. You must prove you can survive as Apache, that you're worthy to be one of us." Kai's eyes were troubled. 3 trials over 3 days. If you pass, you're accepted. If you fail, I'll be cast out. Or worse." Kai looked at Cochise. "Uncle, this isn't necessary. Kate saved my life. That should be enough." Cochise responded in English, his voice carrying across the gathered crowd. "If she wishes to stay, if she wishes to take an Apache man as her husband, she must prove herself. This is our way. Even I cannot change it." Kate looked at the faces surrounding her, some sympathetic, most skeptical, a few openly hostile. She thought about running, about asking Kai to leave with her right now. But where would they go? They'd never survive alone in the desert, not with Wade Garrett still hunting them, not with the army searching for escaped Apache. She straightened her spine and looked at Cochise. "I'll do it. Whatever the trials are, I'll face them." Amma's smile was sharp as a knife. She spoke in Apache, her tone mocking. "She says you'll fail," Kai translated quietly. "She says white women are soft and useless, that you'll beg to leave before the first day ends." Kate looked directly at Amma. "Tell her I've survived things that would break softer women." "Tell her I don't beg," Kai translated, and something like surprise crossed Amma's face. She nodded once, grudging respect in the gesture. Cochise spoke again. "The first trial begins at dawn tomorrow. Tonight you rest. Nalin will provide you shelter." He looked at Kai. "You will not speak to her or help her during the trials. She must stand alone." Kai started to protest, but Kate squeezed his hand. "I understand. I'll be fine, Kate." "I'll be fine," she repeated, with more confidence than she felt. "I didn't come this far to give up now." That night, Kate slept in Nalin's wickiup while Kai stayed with the warriors. She lay awake for hours, listening to unfamiliar sounds, breathing unfamiliar air, wondering what the dawn would bring. The first trial began with the sun. Nalin woke Kate before dawn and led her to a group of women gathered by the stream. Ema stood at their center, her face set with determination. Cochise addressed the gathered tribe in Apache, then switched to English. The first trial is endurance. Kate Murphy will gather wood for the fires, enough to last 3 days. She will carry it herself, with no help, until the task is complete or she collapses. Kate looked at the forest beyond the camp. It stretched up a steep mountainside, dense with juniper and pine. 3 days' worth of wood for the entire camp would be an enormous amount. Her back ached just thinking about it, but she nodded. "I'm ready." Amma handed her a leather strap for binding wood. Her smile said she expected Kate to fail within hours. Kate walked into the forest alone. The morning air was cool, but she knew the day would turn brutal soon. She found a fallen tree, dead and dry, perfect for burning. Using a hand axe Nalin had provided, she began chopping it into manageable pieces. The work was backbreaking. Kate's hands blistered within the first hour. Her shoulders screamed. But she thought of Wade Garrett, of the Thorntons, of every person who'd ever told her she was worthless. She thought of Kai, of the life they could build if she just survived this. And she kept chopping. By midday, she'd made her first trip back to camp, carrying a massive bundle of wood bound to her back. The weight made her knees buckle, but she staggered into camp and dumped it by the fire pit. Women watched silently. Some looked impressed. Others, including Amma, looked disappointed that she hadn't given up yet. Kate went back for more. The sun beat down mercilessly. Her dress was soaked with sweat. Blisters burst and bled. But she kept working. On her 5th trip, her legs gave out halfway to camp. She fell, the wood scattering around her. For a moment, she just lay there tasting dirt and blood, her body screaming for her to stop. She heard footsteps, opened her eyes to see Amma standing over her, that same sharp smile. "You can quit," Amma said in halting English. "No shame. Go back to your people." Kate looked up at this woman who had every reason to hate her, who had lost her promised husband to a white stranger. And she understood. This wasn't just about proving herself to the tribe. This was about proving something to herself. She pushed herself to her knees, ignoring the agony, gathered the scattered wood, rebounded, stood on shaking legs. "I'm not quitting," Kate said through cracked lips. "Not today. Not ever." She staggered past Amma and into camp, dumped the wood, turned around and went back for more. The day blurred into an agony of chopping and carrying. Kate lost count of trips, lost track of time. Her hands were bloody meat. Her back felt broken. But she kept moving, kept working, because stopping meant losing everything. As the sun set, painting the sky crimson, Kate made her final trip. She dumped the last bundle of wood and collapsed beside it. She'd done it. Gathered enough wood for 3 days. Proven she could endure, Nalin appeared with water and a salve for her hands. "You did well," the old woman said softly. Better than many Apache women could have done. Kate could barely speak. "What's tomorrow's trial?" "Rest now. Tomorrow will bring its own challenges." Kate slept like the dead that night, too exhausted even to dream. She woke before dawn to find her hands bandaged and treated. Nalin's work. The old medicine woman was caring for her, she realized. Helping her survive this, the second trial was different. Cochise announced it to the gathered tribe. "Today, Kate Murphy hunts. She will bring back meat for the camp, but she hunts with Apache weapons only. No white man's guns." Amma handed Kate a bow and a quiver of arrows. "Good luck," she said, but her eyes said something else. She'd chosen weapons Kate had never used before. Kate had fired rifles before, back in Boston, but she'd never touched a bow. She looked at the weapon in her hands, feeling its unfamiliar weight. An old warrior, one-eyed and scarred, stepped forward. He said something in Apache, then demonstrated the proper stance, how to nock an arrow, how to draw and aim. He didn't speak English, but his actions were clear. He was giving her a chance. Kate practiced for an hour while the tribe watched. The bow was harder than it looked. Her arms shook with the effort of drawing it. Her first dozen shots went wild, arrows disappearing into the brush. But slowly, painfully, she began to understand the weapon. Finally, Cochise nodded. "Now you hunt?" Kate walked into the desert alone, bow in hand, knowing that coming back empty-handed meant failure. The sun climbed higher. She walked for hours, looking for tracks. For any sign of game, she found rabbit tracks near a wash, fresh. She followed them carefully, moving as quietly as she could. There, a jackrabbit, sitting in the shade of a creosote bush. Kate's heart pounded. This was it, her chance. She nocked an arrow, drew the bow, her arms trembling with effort. The rabbit's ear twitched. It was about to bolt. She released. The arrow flew true, striking the rabbit through the chest. It kicked once and was still. Kate ran forward, hardly believing she'd hit it. She'd done it. She'd actually done it. She said a quiet prayer of thanks, the way she'd seen Kai do, honoring the animal's sacrifice. She returned to camp as the sun began to set, the rabbit held high. The tribe watched as she presented it to Cochise. It was small, barely a meal for one person, but she'd hunted it with Apache weapons and Apache skills. Cochise nodded slowly. "You have done well. Tomorrow is the final trial, the hardest." That night, Kate was allowed to sit by the main fire with the tribe. Kai sat across from her, his eyes full of pride and worry. They couldn't speak, but their eyes said everything. The third trial was announced at dawn. "Vision quest," Cochise said. "Kate Murphy will go alone into the sacred cave in the mountains. She will stay there without food or water until the spirits speak to her, or until 2 days pass. This is how our young people find their path. This is how she will find hers." Kate's stomach clenched. 2 days without food or water, alone in a cave. After the physical trials of the previous 2 days, this might break her. Nalin walked with her to the cave entrance, high up the mountainside. "The spirits will test you," the old woman said. "They will show you visions, some true, some false. You must find the truth in the chaos. What if I don't see anything? Then you are not meant to be Apache." Nalin's eyes were kind, but honest. "But I think you will see much, Kate Murphy. You have the soul of a searcher." Kate entered the cave alone. It was cool and dark, smelling of earth and ancient stone. She sat in the center of the space and waited as the light from the entrance slowly faded. The first day passed in endless silence. Kate's thirst grew overwhelming. Her stomach cramped with hunger. But worse was the isolation, the darkness, the silence that pressed in from all sides. As the second night fell, something changed. Kate began to see things in the darkness. Her parents dying on the ship, Mrs. Thornton's cruel face, Wade Garrett reaching for her. But then other visions came. Kai, teaching her to move silently through the desert. Nalin showing her healing plants. Children who might be hers someday, running through the canyon. She saw 2 paths. One led back to white society, to safety and familiarity, but also to servitude and fear. The other led deeper into this new life, to freedom and danger in equal measure. As dawn broke on the 3rd day, Kate understood. The choice had never been between cultures. It was between living someone else's life or claiming her own. Between safety in chains or freedom in the wilderness. She emerged from the cave as the sun rose, weak and trembling, but changed. Cochise waited at the entrance, with the entire tribe gathered behind him. "What did you see?" he asked. Kate looked at Kai, then back at Cochise. "I saw that home isn't a place. It's the people who see you for who you truly are. It's the freedom to choose your own path." She straightened despite her exhaustion. "I choose this. I choose to be Apache if you'll have me." Cochise studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled, truly smiled, for the first time since she'd arrived. "Then welcome, daughter." "Welcome home." The tribe erupted in celebration. Kai pushed through the crowd and swept Kate into his arms, holding her like he'd never let go. "You did it," he whispered fiercely. "I knew you would." Kate held him tight, feeling the warmth of acceptance wash over her from the gathered people. She'd proven herself. She'd earned her place. But as the celebration continued, Kate saw Amma standing apart from the crowd. The young woman's face showed no anger now, only a strange sadness. She nodded once to Kate, a gesture of respect, then turned and walked away. Kate had won, but she understood that victories always came with a price. She'd gained a new family, but Amma had lost her future. The balance of things, neither wholly good nor wholly bad. That night there was a ceremony. Nalin painted symbols on Kate's face and arms. Cochise spoke words in Apache that made Kate officially part of the tribe. And Kai stood beside her, his hand in hers, as they were recognized as husband and wife by Apache law. Later, in the wiki-up that was now theirs, Kai held Kate close. "I was terrified," he admitted. "Every day of those trials I thought I might lose you, but you didn't," Kate whispered. "I'm here. I'm staying forever, forever." Outside, the desert night sang with insects and distant howls. The tribe settled into sleep, and Kate Murphy, who had been a servant girl with nothing, closed her eyes as an Apache woman with everything that mattered. But far to the north, Wade Garrett sat in a cantina, staring at a map. He'd lost Kate's trail in the Dragoon Mountains, but he hadn't given up. Men like him never did, and somewhere between them fate was already preparing the final test. 3 months passed like water flowing through the canyon. Kate learned to speak Apache haltingly at first, then with growing confidence. She worked beside Nalin every day, learning which plants healed and which killed, how to set bones and treat fevers. Her hands, once soft from servant work, became strong and sure. She learned to tan hides, to make pemmican, to track animals by the faintest signs. The Apache women who had viewed her with suspicion slowly accepted her. She wasn't white anymore, not really. She wasn't quite Apache either. She was something in between, something new. Kai's shoulder healed completely under Nalin's expert care. He taught Kate to use the bow properly, to move silently through the desert, to read the land like a book. They built a life together in the hidden canyon, and for the first time in her life, Kate understood what it meant to be truly happy. She was grinding corn outside their wiki-up one morning when Cochise appeared, his face grave. Several warriors stood behind him, all armed and tense. "White soldiers come," Cochise said without preamble. 20 men, maybe more. They have Apache scouts with them. They're searching the canyon systematically. Kate's blood ran cold. Are they looking for Kai? They're looking for escaped Apache. But they may also be looking for a white woman who disappeared from the Thornton Ranch. Cochise's eyes were steady. "We can hide you deeper in the mountains. Keep you safe." "No," Kai said immediately, emerging from the wiki-up. "If they find the camp, they'll destroy it whether Kate is here or not. We should leave. Lead them away." "Where would you go?" Cochise asked. "South. Into Mexico like we planned. We've stayed too long already. Made Kate a target." Kai looked at her, his eyes full of apology and determination. This was always temporary. A safe harbor before the final journey. Kate's heart ached. She'd grown to love this place, these people, but she knew Kai was right. Her presence put everyone at risk. The army would use her as an excuse to attack, to kill, to justify whatever violence they wanted to inflict. "When do we leave?" she asked quietly. "Tonight. We travel light and fast." Kai turned to Cochise. "Uncle, thank you for sheltering us, for accepting Kate. We won't forget." Cochise gripped Kai's shoulder. "You are my blood. She is now also my blood. If you need us, we will come." He looked at Kate. "You proved yourself, daughter. You will always have a home here." Kate's eyes burned with tears, but she blinked them back. Apache women didn't cry, Nalin had taught her. They endured. They spent the day preparing. Kate packed herbs and medicines, supplies for the journey. Nalin gave her a medicine bag, filled with precious healing plants and whispered blessings. Other women came with gifts, dried meat, a warm blanket, a knife with a bone handle, beautiful and deadly. Amma appeared last, standing awkwardly at the wiki-up entrance. She and Kate had maintained a careful distance over the past months, neither hostile nor friendly. "I wanted to say goodbye," Amma said in Apache, her voice stiff. "Thank you," Kate responded in the same language. "And I'm sorry. For taking what was meant to be yours." Amma shook her head. "He was never mine. Not truly. I see that now." She looked at Kate directly. You're stronger than I thought, braver. He chose well. You'll find someone, Kate said gently. Someone who sees you the way Kai sees me. Perhaps. Amma managed a small smile. Stay alive, white woman. Don't make me regret respecting you. She left before Kate could respond, but the gesture meant everything. Forgiveness, perhaps, or at least understanding. As the sun set, Kai and Kate mounted their horses, the same 2 horses that had carried them to safety 3 months ago. The tribe gathered to see them off, a sea of faces Kate had come to know and love. Cochise raised his hand in farewell. May the spirits guide your path and protect yours, Kai responded. They rode out as darkness fell, heading south toward the border, toward Mexico, toward an uncertain future. Kate looked back once and saw the fires of the camp fading into the distance. Her home, her family. Perhaps she'd see them again someday. Perhaps not. They traveled by night and hid by day, moving through territory that grew steadily more dangerous. This was disputed land, claimed by both America and Mexico, controlled by neither. Bandits and renegades roamed freely, but Kai knew the paths, knew where to find water, knew how to avoid trouble. On the 3rd night, trouble found them anyway. They'd made camp in a small cave, no fire to avoid detection. Kate was checking their supplies when Kai suddenly tensed, his hand going to his knife. We're surrounded, he whispered. At least 6 men. White men. Kate's heart stopped. Wait, I don't know. But we're about to find out. Kai moved to the cave entrance, positioning himself between Kate and whoever was coming. A voice called out from the darkness. Kai of the Chiricahua Apache. We know you're in there. Come out with your hands visible. Not Wade's voice. Someone else. Military by the sound of it. Kai and Kate exchanged glances. They could fight, but against 6 armed men they'd lose. They could try to escape out the back of the cave, but Kate saw no other exit. We're coming out, Kai called back. Don't shoot. They emerged slowly, hands raised. 6 soldiers stood in a semicircle, rifles trained on them. In the center stood a lieutenant Kate didn't recognize, young and nervous looking. But behind the soldiers, sitting on a horse with a smile that made Kate's skin crawl, was Wade Garrett. Well, Wade drawled, dismounting slowly. Told you I'd find her, Lieutenant. That's Kate Murphy, the woman who ran from the Thornton Ranch. And that's the Apache savage who helped her. Miss Murphy, the lieutenant said, his voice uncertain. I'm Lieutenant Morrison. Mr. Garrett reported that you were kidnapped by this Apache. That he forced you to flee with him. Kate's mind raced. Wade had lied to the army, painted himself as the concerned foreman trying to rescue a kidnapped woman. If she confirmed his story, she might survive. The army would take her back to civilization. She'd be safe. She'd also lose Kai forever. He'd be hanged or shot, and she'd be returned to Wade's mercy. He's lying, Kate said clearly. Kai didn't kidnap me. I went with him willingly. I ran because Wade Garrett was planning to force himself on me. Kai saved my life. Wade's face darkened. She doesn't know what she's saying, Lieutenant. The Apache have poisoned her mind. It's common with kidnapping victims. They start to sympathize with their captors. I know exactly what I'm saying. Kate stepped forward, ignoring the rifles pointed at her. Wade Garrett is a predator who's been stalking me for months. Mr. Thornton knew about it and did nothing. I chose to leave. I chose Kai. You chose a savage over your own kind, Wade spat. Over me. I offered you everything. You offered me abuse and degradation. Kate's voice rang out strong and clear. Kai offered me respect, freedom, love. Yes, I chose him. I'd choose him 1,000 times over. The lieutenant looked between them, clearly uncertain. Miss Murphy, you're saying you left of your own free will? That you want to stay with this Apache? Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying. She's clearly been brainwashed, Wade insisted. Lieutenant, your orders were to rescue her and bring her back. My orders were to investigate a kidnapping, the lieutenant corrected. If there was no kidnapping, then I have no jurisdiction. He looked at his men. Lower your weapons. Wade's face twisted with rage. You're not seriously going to let her go. I'm seriously going to follow the law. Mr. Garrett, if the lady wants to stay with her Apache companion, that's her choice. The lieutenant turned to Kate. Ma'am, I have to ask one more time. Do you want to come back with us? Back to civilization. Kate looked at Wade's furious face, at the soldiers watching her with a mixture of pity and confusion, at the life she'd left behind with all its safety and suffocation. Then she looked at Kai, at the man who'd vowed to protect her and kept that vow, who'd shown her what it meant to be valued, who'd given her a life worth living. No, Lieutenant. Thank you, but no. My place is with Kai. Wade exploded. You ungrateful bitch. He lunged for Kate, his hand going to the gun at his hip. Kai moved faster than Kate had ever seen him move. He was between them in an instant, his knife pressed to Wade's throat before the gun cleared the holster. "Touch her and die," Kai said quietly, his voice deadly calm. The soldiers raised their rifles again, but the lieutenant held up his hand. "Everyone stay calm." Wade froze, feeling the knife's pressure. His eyes bulged with rage and fear. "Mr. Garrett, step back slowly," the lieutenant ordered. "Apache, lower your weapon." For a long moment, no one moved. Then Kai stepped back, his knife lowering but still ready. Wade stumbled away, his hand going to his throat, checking for blood. "You're both dead," Wade snarled. "You hear me? I'll hunt you down myself if I have to." "No, you won't," the lieutenant said firmly. "You're done here, Mr. Garrett. You lied to the army about a kidnapping. You attempted to draw a weapon on civilians. I could have you arrested. You wouldn't dare. Try me." The lieutenant's young face hardened. "I'm tired of men like you using the army for your personal vendettas. These two are leaving, and you're coming back with us. If I hear you've pursued them, I'll make sure you face charges." Wade looked like he wanted to argue, but something in the lieutenant's expression stopped him. He mounted his horse stiffly, his eyes promising murder. The lieutenant turned to Kai and Kate. "You should go now, before I change my mind or someone higher up overrules me." "Thank you," Kate said softly. "Don't thank me. Just disappear completely, because I won't be able to help you again." He gestured to his men. "Let's move out." The soldiers mounted and rode away, Wade among them. Kate watched until they disappeared into the darkness, hardly believing they were alive. "Free!" Kai pulled her close, his heart hammering against her back. "That was close. Too close. But we made it." Kate turned in his arms. "We're still here. Still together, because you stood up to him. You chose this life out loud, in front of witnesses." Kai's eyes shone with fierce pride. "You're the bravest person I've ever known, Kate Murphy." "Kate of the Chiricahua Apache," she corrected with a small smile. "I'm not Kate Murphy anymore." They rode hard the rest of that night, putting as much distance as possible between themselves and the soldiers. They didn't trust Wade to obey the lieutenant's orders. Men like him didn't give up just because someone told them to. 2 weeks later, they crossed into Mexico. The land changed, becoming lusher, greener. Mountains rose in the distance, the Sierra Madre that Kai had promised would be their sanctuary. They found a small valley, hidden and fertile, with a spring that ran year-round. There were others there. Apache families who'd fled the reservations, Mexican families who'd left the villages, all of them outcasts and refugees building something new together. Kate and Kai built a wickiup on a rise overlooking the valley. It was small but sturdy, with a view that took Kate's breath away every morning. She started a garden, teaching the other women about herbs and healing. Kai hunted and traded, his reputation as a warrior earning him respect. 6 months after they arrived, Kate realized she was pregnant. She told Kai at sunset, watching his face transform from surprise to joy to fierce protectiveness. "A child," he breathed, his hand on her still flat belly. "Our child. Are you happy?" Kate asked, suddenly nervous. "Happy doesn't begin to cover it." Kai pulled her close. "You've given me everything, Kate, a life, a home, a future, and now a family." Kate rested her head on his shoulder, watching the sun paint the mountains gold and red. She thought about the girl she'd been, scrubbing floors at the Thornton Ranch, invisible and terrified. That girl seemed like someone from another lifetime. "Do you ever regret it?" Kai asked quietly. "Leaving your people, your old life?" Kate considered the question honestly. "Sometimes I miss things, the language, certain foods, small comforts. But regret," she shook her head. No, never, because that life was killing me slowly. This life with you, it's made me alive. Even knowing the danger, knowing we can never go back, especially knowing that—" Kate looked up at him. "We built this, Kai, against every odd, against everyone who said it was impossible. We built a life worth living. That's worth any price." Their daughter was born on a spring morning when the valley bloomed with wildflowers. She had Kate's red hair and Kai's dark eyes, and they named her Narlin after the medicine woman who'd helped them both. She was perfect, impossible, a bridge between two worlds. As Kate held her daughter, Kai, beside her, she thought about all the choices that had led to this moment. Finding a dying warrior in the snow, choosing compassion over fear, leaving everything for freedom, proving herself worthy of belonging. She thought about Cochise and the Apache tribe, hoping they were safe and thriving. She thought about Mrs. Chen, praying the old woman had found some peace. She even thought about Amma, hoping she'd found her own happiness. And she thought about Wade Garrett, whether he'd given up or was still out there somewhere nursing his hatred. But even that fear couldn't touch her here, in this valley surrounded by love. Years passed. More children came, a son, and then another daughter. The valley community grew, became a real settlement where Apache and Mexican and even a few other white refugees lived together. Kate became known as a healer, her skill and knowledge saving countless lives. Kai became a leader, his wisdom and warrior skills protecting the community from bandits and other threats. He taught their children to hunt and fight, to speak both Apache and English, to walk in both worlds. One evening, when their children were grown and starting families of their own, Kate and Kai sat on the rise overlooking their valley. Both of them grey-haired now, weathered by time and sun, but still strong, still together. "Do you remember the day I found you?" Kate asked, holding his hand. "Bleeding in the snow?" "Every detail," Kai said. "I remember thinking I was going to die. Then I saw your face, and I knew the spirits had other plans. I was so scared," Kate admitted. "Of you, of what I was risking, of everything, but you did it anyway." Kai brought her hand to his lips. "You saved my life that day, but you saved more than that. You saved my soul, my future. Everything I am now, everything we built, it started with your courage." Kate leaned against him, watching the sun set over their valley, over their family, over the life they'd carved from chaos and danger and impossible choices. "We did it," she whispered. "Against everyone who said we couldn't. We built something beautiful." "We did," Kai agreed. "And it's still standing. Still growing. Our grandchildren will tell our story someday. The white woman who saved an Apache warrior. The impossible love that created a legacy." Kate smiled. "Make sure they get it right. Tell them it wasn't just about love. It was about choosing courage over fear, freedom over safety, life over survival." "I'll tell them," Kai promised. "I'll make sure they know." The sun set completely, stars emerging like diamonds scattered across black velvet. In the valley below, cookfires glowed warm and welcoming. Children's laughter echoed through the evening air. Life continued, rich and full and hard-won. Kate closed her eyes, feeling the weight of years and blessings, of choices made and prices paid. She'd started as nothing, a servant girl with no name and no future. She'd become something impossible. A healer, a mother, a bridge between worlds, but most importantly, she'd become herself, fully, completely, without apology. And in a world that tried to crush anyone who dared to be different, that was the greatest victory of all. As darkness fell complete, Kai held Kate close, both of them watching the stars, both of them knowing that their story was already legend in the making. The servant girl who healed a dying Apache with shaking hands, the warrior who vowed to protect her forever. Two impossible people who proved that love could transcend hate, that courage could defeat fear, that a single choice, made in a moment of compassion, could change everything. Their story wasn't perfect. It was messy and dangerous and full of sacrifice, but it was theirs, built with their own hands, their own strength, their own refusal to accept the limits others tried to impose. And in the end, that made it beautiful. The desert wind whispered through the valley, carrying with it the promise of tomorrow. Whatever came next, they would face it together, as they always had, as they always would. Two souls, bound by choice and blood and love that transcended every boundary. Still standing, still fighting, still free forever. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out, and don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.